I'm going to review of The Killing Joke, directed by Sam Liu, and it is adapted from the graphic novel of the same name by Alan Moore. And just in case you're somebody who is not familiar with The Killing Joke, without spoiling anything, it's essentially the Joker's origin story. This provides a little bit of backstory. This shows how he became the Joker, how he got the white skin, how he just went completely mad. It's a tragic tale that was even later used loosely as the origin story for the 1989 Tim Burton Batman film. Not only that, but The Killing Joke is pretty well universally seen as the definitive Joker origin story, so much so to where Alan Moore actually later regretted writing it because it unintentionally became canon to the Batman mythos. And if you really want to talk about influences, you of course have to bring up the greatest comic book movie ever made, which is The Dark Knight. Along with The Long Halloween, The Killing Joke plays a huge role not only in terms of themes, but in terms of character molding and events that happen in the film. But as for the Killing Joke film, one thing that I have to mention before I even get started is that one thing that is vastly different from the graphic novel to this film is that there is an added backstory for Batgirl, Barbara Gordon. And although I do have a problem with it, which I will talk about in a second, I really like it. I actually really do. Throughout this segment of the film, Batman serves as her mentor, and you can definitely see a reflection of a young Bruce, or at least a Terry Guinness there. She wants to make Gotham a better place, yet she is naive to what it takes to make Gotham a better place, what it does to you dealing with people who do terrible things. It challenges every bit of your humanity, and you look at Batman, who has the no-killing policy, as well as Batgirl. It makes it interesting, because it's like, okay, how far can they go before they reach their breaking point? Will they reach their breaking point? And that's why you look at a character like Joker, who is just the perfect antithesis of Batman. And by the way, it is Tara Strong who does the voice of not Harley Quinn, because Harley Quinn's not in this thing, but of Barbara, so that's interesting. And you have Kevin Conroy, who is the definitive Batman voice, hands down. Many people have tried. Absolutely everyone has failed. And of course, I am going to talk about the Joker, but before I do that, I do want to say this. The Batgirl segment is like 30 minutes long, out of like an hour and 16 minutes. And as much as I really like this segment, I have two problems with it. One of which being that there is sort of a romance between Batman and Batgirl, and it's just like, really? You didn't have to do that. And the second one is that this segment feels completely out of place. It feels like a totally different film in comparison to what comes later, which is the actual Killing Joke. The events that happen at the beginning of the film are not brought up, nor are they relevant to what happens in the actual Killing Joke portion. And I suppose the romance between Batgirl and Batman is there to sort of heighten the effectiveness of what happens later on in the film, but in reality, by the time I got to it, I already forgot about that part. And again, it feels like two quite non-related films, so. But as for the actual Killing Joke portion, it's pretty well shot for shot, and I have to say I am quite impressed with it, although the animation isn't nothing necessarily to write home about, unfortunately. The animation isn't bad, but it definitely fails at capturing the dark tone that was in Brian Bowler's illustrations. This is one of those times where the book works better than the movie, and what I mean is the editing, the way it jumps from scene to scene, the way it transitions, it's kind of awkward. Some of it is a little hurried along for time, which I get, but really it seems to just kind of be very jumpy, and especially if you throw in the first 30 minutes of the film. And aside from the overall editing, especially when dealing with the Joker's backstory, because they are told through flashbacks throughout, a lot of scenes, unfortunately, especially when dealing with Joker's backstory that is rather emotional, feel kind of rushed. In other words, it just feels like the scene shows up, and it's over. Like, one of the reasons why they added the Batgirl backstory was to actually add some padding to this film. And it's like, well, why didn't you just focus on Joker? Why didn't you just beef up that some more? I don't know. Like, if you're already going to do something that is blasphemous, why not just do that? That said, this is a shot-for-shot adaptation, and it's pretty damn faithful to the source material. So in other words, if you don't like the source material, you probably won't like this film, or vice versa. Now, one thing that I said earlier that I said I was going to talk about, but I have not yet already, is of course Mark Hamill as the Joker. Now, when some people think of Mark Hamill, they probably think of Luke Skywalker, but when I think of Mark Hamill, well, first of all, I see the name Arkham literally in his name. That's some Illuminati shit. But of course, I associate him with the Joker because, like Kevin Conroy, many people have tried, and pretty much everyone has failed. And if you are talking about live action, of course, I'm going to go with Heath, but if you're talking about animation, then I gotta go with Mark Hamill. There's just really no other. And the older he's gotten, the more grovel he has gotten in his voice, which makes him seem all the more menacing. The only problem that I have is that the animation just doesn't do his voice work justice here. You play the Arkham games, and given the technology and the budget, those do. It's a fantastic performance, and there is one scene towards the end of the film that I have to say I really loved, because you get to see a different side of Joker. You get to see maybe a hint of remorse. And that's the thing about Joker, and this is what makes him just so damn interesting, is that he's utterly insane, will do absolutely anything and everything imaginable. However, he's not just completely lost. He contains just enough consciousness to know exactly what he's doing and relish in what he's doing. He's methodical, he is mad, yet underneath all that madness, there is a glimpse of a human. And even that, I'd say, is a short way of saying that the Joker is a deep character. Whether you're talking about The Killing Joke or The Dark Knight, the Joker offers a mountain of discussion. Overall, I don't think The Killing Joke is the best DC animated film. My pick would be The Dark Knight Returns, but it's still a really good one. So with that said, I'm going to give The Killing Joke a very strong 3.5 out of 5. If you're somebody who has seen The Killing Joke, then do let me know your thoughts on it, and as always, I'm Colin Kirkland, and thank you so much for watching.